Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
How you doing, Steve?
Pretty good.
New hat again?
Yeah, I think this one might be my wife's or Zeta's hat.
That's a hat, though.
Yeah.
LL Bean.
Yeah,
Goes with your Columbia shirt.
I got long sleeve on. It's a little chilly out there.
I know. It's a little rainy Friday, but it's supposed to be a little bit of a break. So a little rain this morning, then a break through the afternoon, and then rain again. So I was hoping after I do the show, I'll go move some more dirt. I'm getting there, but it's a long process. So very happy though. It's there now. It's at the land. It's not where I wanted it. It's kind of in the way when I was taking dirt out, but all I care at this point, it's there so that I can get a pad in and can get that set and then can kind of go from there. So that was a positive thing for yesterday for sure. So I have a breaking news.
What you got?
So Noise R Us Fireworks is going to sponsor us from now through the 4th.
Oh, wow.
And so if you need any fireworks, Noise R Us, right top of the hill there on John Stark Highway. Go see Shannon, who's also the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, does a lot for Newport. She's already done shows for me. I'm like, hey, make me a show. You know more about this than me. She knows all the new she knows fireworks. She's been doing this forever. So I'll just go to her and be like, hey, I want to spend this. Put me a show together. You'll show up. It'll all be boxed. Pay her. Out the door you go. It's awesome. I've done that for the last 2 years. I'll do that again this year. So we're getting closer to that, obviously, that time. And it'll get real busy there, like the 2 weeks before 4th of July gets real.
Yeah, usually around the 4th of July. There's certain holidays you drive by and there'll be a line outside.
Oh, yeah. It gets crazy.
Full.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's a hard business to be in because you literally, like once a year is pretty much when you're selling everything, and the rest of the year it's a little bit here, a little bit there. So it's a tough business to be in, but she does a great job. I know they just got one truck or 2 trucks of fireworks in the other day, wow. Big old truck. So I'm excited. I love fireworks. It's a good time, and
it makes you think of good times and celebrations, family.
Absolutely, I love the 4th of July. I love having a get together. I love letting fireworks off. Obviously, be safe with your fireworks. Because fireworks are safe as long as you practice safely with them. Don't do stupid things. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good time, and thank you to Shannon for sponsoring us from now until through the 4th, and also Twin State Paving for continuing to sponsor our show. And so if you need paving done, make sure you get hold of them, and the sooner the better because they do get busy and as time goes on.
I got a budget built up because my driveway is going to need some attention here. I don't know if I'll be able to get it this year, but I'm saving up for it.
Yeah,
I'm saving up for everything. I got a lot of improvements that need to be done, but the garden is my main priority.
I see you got more fence done.
I did. I got like 8 more posts to set.
Yeah, you're almost there. It's looking good. So
appreciate it.
It's Farming Friday, so I'll have to throw something together here for the end of the show, just some progress on the fence. And we've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to get any video of me moving dirt or anything.
Well, I thought I was going to have my GoPro that I bought 8 years ago, and unfortunately, when I bought it, it didn't play, and they were like, "Oh, you don't have the high enough settings on your computer, and that's why you're having video problems." Well, now I have a graphics engine and all kinds of stuff that can handle GoPro, and it still does not work. And so I thought I'd be able to do like a time lapse so that
right.
I could get critique, but not as bad as if you're watching me do it in real time. So anyway, we don't have any of that yet. I got to figure out what to do about the GoPro situation with a time lapse video.
Yeah, because we need to get. So I was thinking we need to get another camera so that especially when we have Chief and we have guests that. Because I hate the shot. It's like a wide shot. But I did order a green screen last night that'll fit the whole area. So at least next week when Chief comes in, we can have a green screen behind us because I think that's the coolest thing on the show now is a green screen.
Well, yeah.
It's like, we can do cool things. And so we're just trying to keep
that was some
adding.
Feedback you got. Was it the brown wall with one
Yeah, it was pretty plain. So now I've mixed it up and I've been switching the green screen pretty much every day. I'm going to try to put between segments, like we talk about school stuff, we'll try to put the school thing up, and then just to kind of mix it up to make it more exciting. And
well, that's what I was taught in the military to always make little improvements every day to your fortification or your work area.
Try it, yeah.
Just spend a little bit of time just making things better. And I think that with the green screen, with a second camera, it's all expensive, and we're not making
Nothing.
any money off of this. This is more of a
This is
catharsis for you on some days because you get to voice and find out if you're alone in your thinkings, and for me it keeps me from, I don't know, sleeping until 9 o'clock.
That's true. Yeah, no, and like the whole reason to start the show was and is because I wanted awareness for things in Newport, and I want more involvement from the community in Newport. And then it kind of goes bigger too. It's like I want to. I guess I'm going to speak for myself because I can do that accurately. I can't necessarily speak for you, but I wanted to point out things that I don't like that are happening around us that I think should change, whether it's a left or right or whatever. I don't care about that as much. And yeah, sometimes I get caught up, and I used the Democrats, but I think I'm just as hard on Republicans and plan on keeping the same thing. So basically, if you're a politician, whether you're local or you're on a state level, national level, you're free game. So
you should be working to make life
if you don't
better for
represent
your constituents,
exactly,
not for people around the world.
Yeah, and I'm so done with that crap, and I'm so done with people that have been in politics for 40 years and nothing's changed yet. Let's bash Tim, let's bash Steve, let's bash somebody else, and like, what have you done? Like, show me on paper what you've accomplished, and then I'll be like, oh, it's weird because our schools, last in some places, our town's taxes are high, all these things have happened. Like, what have you done? You've been there all these years, and it's like, it's time for people in our generation to step up into politics, into offices that can contribute, and not people that have been there for so long that they don't even, a lot of these people don't even know how to run a computer. They don't know anything about today, and it's running, and you can't make improvements for today if you don't understand today at all. And I mean, I struggle understanding some of the stuff today from what my kids know. My kids know stuff that I'm like, I've never heard of that app. I've never heard of this. Like, I'm 38 years old. Like, so how, if you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you're still in Congress, you're still in Concord and all this, how could you possibly be in touch with the people that you supposedly represent when you don't even have a clue? And if you're so in touch, why aren't you making change? Why don't I see change in my community?
Yeah, it's not necessarily their age. It's the time that they've been there.
It's the time that they've been there.
And what accomplishments.
Because exactly.
Because the lawsuit for Claremont was in the 90s, and we're still struggling to get the right amount of money. Yeah, nothing's changed. And there's
I'm not saying if you're
saying that they need to.
Right.
The state needs to step up.
I mean, I'm not saying if you're 70 years old and you're like, oh, I was going to run for Congress, but that jerk Tim Beard said don't run for Congress because I'm 70. And no. If you're 78 years old, 60, whatever, and you've been in politics for 40 years, it's time for you to retire. It's time for you to step back and let people step in that actually are more in tune with the world today. That's what I'm saying. I'm sick of these career politicians. I'm sick of these people that literally, it's all they've done, but they have nothing to show for it. Now, if you're like, well, I did this, all right, that's cool. Well, how's that affecting me today? What is that happening today? Like, that's the whole thing. And that was the whole reason for the show, is to point out positive things in town, point out negative things in town, debate them, get awareness to them, and then obviously step up to stuff that affects our lives on a national scale or state scale. Reality is, fixing stuff on a federal level is extremely hard because even if the whole state of New Hampshire unites, we're still very small compared to the other 49 states. But if you get involved in your community and you start there, you start in your community, you change your community, and you spread that out. All right, maybe now we work on Sullivan County, then we work on the state. It's a slow progress. And if someone down in Nashua is doing the same thing we're doing, and they're trying to get awareness, and you got someone over in Berlin, it's just how it starts, right? Piece by piece, just get involved. That's what it is.
To me, at this point, my personal opinion is I don't really care which party you affiliate with, because I don't want to be divided, because there's common ground that we can find. Right. And all too often, you'll have a hot take and then people will dismiss you because you get emotional about it. Well, everybody gets emotional about it. And that's my goal when you ask, because originally I was like, I'll work the camera for you. I'll find you the articles and try to keep you on track so that you're not misinformation or disinformation. And people will say even the stuff that we talk about is mis or disinformation, but I use pretty good discernment. I trust myself to be able to read something and figure out what the real meaning is behind it, because you can't just read an article or watch a news broadcast on one channel. You can't just watch Fox News. You can't just watch MSNBC, NBC. You have to spread it around, because you got to have all the sides from it, because everything is slanted these days.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot more common ground between most of us who aren't involved in politics, in the sense of, all right, so you're a Democrat or whatever, but we can agree on these 5 things. Why don't we fix these 5 things?
Right.
And then we can continue to debate and argue and do research and figure out, all right, well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, and we'll go with the number of votes.
Right.
But it's not like that, because we have activist judges.
Yeah.
We have activist prosecutors.
Yeah.
We have activist executive branches across all the states and the federal government, where they're using the pen versus, Congress or
The Constitution.
Right. Our Constitution is under attack on a daily basis, and it's by both parties. So let's have a conversation. That's why you get fired up, and then I'm like, well, have you thought about this, Tim? And you're like, wow, why are you doing that to me? But you have to, right? If you don't, because I like to think that you and I can be convinced if we're shown data or examples, not like one anecdotal example, like Chief was saying yesterday, oh, that's your anecdotal perception.
Right.
Which is the correct answer that he should provide as the chief of police.
Right.
And I'm sure there's not really data collected. I'm sure we might be able to find that in the old days, because now there's, I don't know, however many genders they've concocted. But you know what I mean? So it's probably hard to do with today's society, as people start saying, oh, I'm a cat.
Right. People dressed as cats probably get more tickets than people dressed as...
Do you think people who... Let's see, that would be a good research project. If I identify as a cat, can I get a driver's license?
Maybe.
You shouldn't be able to, right? Because technically you're supposed to be walking around on all 4s. You can't communicate because all you can do is meow.
You should be able to go to Massachusetts.
If you're going to really do it, if you're going to really be a cat.
Be a cat.
Be a cat. Commit fully. Don't sit there and be like, I'm a cat. No, be a cat, walk around on all 4s, use a litter box, commit to it. I can respect that. I can't respect walking around on 2 feet and wearing a tail and be like, I'm a cat, respect me. No, you're weird. I don't have to respect you. You have to earn respect.
I could still respect that more than I want to be a girl now. I'm going to dress as a girl. I'm going to have sex change, and you have to call me miss and blah, 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 blah. I still respect the cat more.
I try to treat everybody with any respect, because although they might have changed the categorization of body or gender dysmorphia, whatever the proper term is, there's still a human in there that needs help.
True. All right, let's talk about some positive things first.
You're like, whatever.
We'll get into this negative stuff after.
No, that's not negative.
Well, no, it's not negative. But so anyways, the whole point was this is why we started.
This is why we're doing it.
This is
trying
why
to
we're
have
doing
conversations like this and highlight what's going on in the town. Provide PR, because there's newspapers aren't as popular as they used to be.
I think some of it too is people just the things you hear, I guess, would be. I think some of it are just people just irritated that we developed a platform to do something and they didn't. So it's like, how's that fair that they have a voice and I don't? Well,
they can.
Yeah, go spend some money, buy a camera. You can even go buy a camera.
They used to say, go develop your own your own social media if you don't want to be on Twitter and be censored. And so then the guy created Gab, and now they're like, you need to shut Gab down. Well, wait, I thought you told a guy like him to go start his own social media. And now that he has, they fight against him all the time. If you look, you can see that they attack him, and it's like, well, you told me to do this, and now I'm doing it, so I'm giving other people a platform where they can actually use free speech, because they don't monitor much. You can't make threats, right? So protected speech is protected speech, whether you like it or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my hot take on that.
That's your hot take.
Well, go develop your own, and then he does, and then now he's bad because he developed his own, and now that people have a voice. They don't want people to have a voice.
Right. They don't. They want you to shut up, fall in line, and listen to what we're saying.
Right.
Well, our whole message here is going to be the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
So you'll love to shut us
My
down.
psychology is I don't like being told what to do no matter who you are.
Exactly. My point is I'm going to try my best to educate people more and more and more to rise up against that mentality that you should just shut up and fall in line and listen to what they say. Like, no, that's not what this country was founded on. And
It's like that Far Side comic. You ever seen it with the cows? And there's one cow holding up a sign saying, "Don't go through the gate. They're going to kill you." And it says like butcher plant or whatever back there, and everybody's like conspiracy theorist.
I have seen that meme. So yesterday, I was.
It's not a meme; it's an actual comic that was.
Oh, it's a
published.
comic.
Yeah,
I've seen a meme like that too, but
it's the Far Side.
yeah,
but
I know the Far Side. Yeah.
Used to be in the newspapers back in the day.
I know that was always the best thing about Sunday newspaper was the funnies.
You had like 4 pages
Yeah,
in color.
Garfield and all those different ones. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now I'm dating myself, but it's okay. So yesterday I was kind of torn after the show. Chief come in, so we kind of did the show more early afternoon, and the Chief came in at 1, and so it was like 3:30 time. We're done, got it all edited, all that good stuff, and I was like, man, I really need to go move more dirt. Like, this is my life right now.
That's what you said you were
moving
going to
dirt,
do.
yeah. But I'm like, I haven't been to any varsity softball games this year, and I really like going to softball games in particular. And I've been to a lot of baseball games because Amelia was playing, and I went to some middle school games and, whatever. So, but they're in playoffs, so I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go. And it's only a short amount of time. I want to show support for the community, for the school, and for the girls that are playing. And so they played Belmont yesterday in the preliminary round of the playoffs, and they beat them 11-0.
Nice.
So then as we're there, it's like, here's the thing. If Messinic loses to Monadnock Saturday, we'll have to go to Monadnock, which we've already lost to Monadnock 3-14. They're a really good team. I don't know if they won the championship last year, if the boys did, but one of those teams did win the championship last year. And but we had beaten Messinic earlier this year, I guess. And so I get home, and I don't know, maybe an hour goes by or something like that, and I look, and I'm like, so Newport softball has a home game on Saturday versus Messinic because Messinic beat Monadnock. So that's awesome. So that's
upset.
That's yes, and that's a
So 2 home games. That's awesome.
yes, 2 home games. So Saturday, it's going to be nice. The weather looks perfect for tomorrow. 4:00, get out, show your support for these girls. So this is a quarterfinals now. If they win this, they'll go on, from there. I don't know if they'll have a home game. It's going to depend on different bracket levels and stuff. But so Newport was 5th seeded, but it's funny because Messinic, I think, was 15th.
Wow.
So, and I said, well, that's kind of the upset like that happened last year during the championship football stuff. Is we smoked Fall Mountain, and then Fall Mountain came here and smoked us, and so never get
we
caught.
shut out Fall Mountain.
Yes, it was a big game, and then you look at that, and so the good thing is, I think for the girls that if they had faced Monadnock at home in Monadnock, so away for them that's a mental thing you have to get over too. But I think this helps give us a little edge. Like, hey, we've already beat Messinic. We're home. It's always when you're playing at home, it's always a big bonus there. So, come out 4:00.
You can bet they'll have a large contingent there too. So
absolutely, this is playoffs time, so they'll have a lot of people from Messinic showing up, as they should. And so let's get a lot of people there from Newport to show your support. It doesn't cost anything to get in. You show up. They had a snack shack open yesterday. They'll probably have it open tomorrow, I'm sure. It's just a fundraiser for the younger kids or something like that. So yeah, get out. First of all, congratulations, Newport softball. It was a great game. 11-0. They held them no runs.
it's awesome because they had a little losing streak after their.
They did. They had a little bit of a losing
started
streak
off
there.
undefeated.
Yeah, and then and it was. I mean, there was one point the bases were loaded yesterday. With a batter up, and if it was a walk, they were going to walk a run in, and so the game could have changed. I mean, it was 5-0 for I think the first 5 innings. In the last 2 innings, there was a lot of errors from Belmont. They made little things. Tanya was pitching. She pitched the whole game. She did a really great job. Dump was really good too. I kind of feel like, towards the end of the game, I kind of felt like the strike zone was starting to change a little bit because I was like, I feel like you called that before, but I mean, we are always. I like to sit. I stand behind the home plate because then I can see the balls. Plus, it's a nice view and stuff. But for the most part, it was good. I've seen games where it's like wait, what just happened there? That was in the dirt, and so it was still fair. I was at the end, and I think Tanya was starting to get frustrated. Like, I'm sure she's getting tired. There's a lot of stress from pitching, and it seemed like the pitching, the strike zone was changing a little bit because there was a lot of inside on the left side of the plate. He was calling strikes consistently, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. I'm like, wait a minute, just like the last two innings, I kind of noticed, but for the most part, it was
maybe shifted in the
yeah,
position
something changed, but they got it done. That's all that matters, and so
awesome.
Shout out to them. Show up
Saturday, 4:00.
Yeah, tomorrow at 4. Home. Show up. Support them. And
June 4th.
June 4th. Yeah, cheer them on. Before I go to this one, I'll do here. So EMTs, and I'm just going to read the headline straight up. EMTs rock. 100% pass rate for the 2021-22 practical exam. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Perry, for exceptional teaching and participation. Preparation, teaching and preparation. Congratulations. That's, I did the EMT class years ago, not in school, but when I was on the fire department, and, my class that did it, so I did it actually with my mom, and we had 20% passing rate.
Wow.
And then the state changed the class because they're like, apparently we did something wrong because it's really, so it's hard. It is not easy. They write questions. So the way they write the questions are 2 of them usually just garbage, but the other 2 are very close. So I say it's a trick. I mean, the state probably has a different,
No, it's like that on most tests.
Yeah, so
if you do a lot of problems in your head, like on math problems, it seems like they always have one to where if they're trying to do this rule and they mess it up,
yes,
and so you can get that. So that's always tricky.
Yeah, so it's a difficult thing. I mean, it's a difficult thing for adults that have gone through school, even gone through college. Like it's a tough thing to do. So congratulations to these kids. I'm going to put the picture up of them, and then another headline was thank you to the Newport Police Department for hosting intern Sierra Bellone. I'm sorry, I know I got your name probably wrong, but Bellayune. I guess she interned at the PD, and there's a picture up on Facebook too. We'll throw that up on our show here so you can see them. So congratulations.
There's a lot of opportunities, and
there's a lot of great things happening in Newport. That we should celebrate.
You don't even have to look hard. You just
gotta know
it's
where so
to
easy.
Look. Yeah,
exactly.
And the updated website for the school makes it easier.
So for me, when I do every morning, sometimes I prep at night and then I'll come in the morning for the local stuff. So that way we got some preparation done. But I literally come in here, turn on Facebook, I go on the school's Facebook page. That's where I find most of the stuff. And then I'll just go around, town website out, Chamber of Commerce, just checking these different things. So if you have Facebook and you like these pages, that it's all right there. They do a great job putting out the information, and that's where I find it. It's not like I have no inside loop here. I mean, I wish I did because I probably could get even more stuff, and we'll definitely work on that for next year so that we can try to get more things out. We did.
Because I like when we talk about more positive things.
Yes.
The craziness that's going on in the
and typically the positive stories end up coming from Newport or New Hampshire, but Newport, and that's really what we're focusing on, right? I want to celebrate that stuff. I mean, occasionally we're going to talk about negative things that happen in Newport, but for the most part, there's a lot of positive stuff, and it's a lot harder to find positive stories in the nation itself, and we could find them, but sometimes it's like, hey, I want to bring something up so that you'll think and you'll be like, what's going on here, and kind of watch the progression of some of the things happening that we need to start getting aware of. We've been way too complacent for too long. So, and then we did this yesterday, but I want to do it again today, and because I think it's important, and probably the next school board meeting will be the old Tim will come back, but I want to go over the listings for all the jobs that Newport has as of right now for next year. So the reason we want to mention it, because you can find it in different places, is because maybe you're listening to the show and something here fits.
Or you know someone.
Yes, because we need to fill these positions, because this year, for instance, the math, 7th grade math, Mr. Ronings, who's the principal, is teaching it because there's no math teacher. We can't have this. We can't have positions not be filled, and they've all year long have had
Right. He needs
positions.
to be focusing on the administration of the school.
Exactly. That's what he was hired for, and he can't do that job if he's doing this job. And so I feel like this is super important. So
Kudos to him for stepping up.
yeah, these teachers, everyone does. All these people, administration, whatever, they step up and they get things done. And there's a lot of positive changes. We got a new vice principal in the high school. It's Mia Fisher's mom, Sarah, right?
Yep.
She's a Newporter originally. She lives in Newport. She went away for a little bit to a different place. She's coming back. I know when talking with Shannon, they're excited about this. People are excited about it. That's awesome. We have a new superintendent coming in, who will be at the next meeting, kind of just sitting in, checking things out on June 9th.
I think she'll be in the audience. But
Yep. So in July, we've got that happening. So we've got a lot of positive changes happening, and then we also have these things happening to where we need positions to fill, and we have work to do. But so Richie's Elementary School is looking for an elementary classroom teacher, looking for school guidance counselor K through 2, special education teacher, and then paraeducators. And so paraeducators, they'll train. And then Newport Middle School, we're looking for computer science teacher, special education teachers, so we need more than one of those, science teacher in 7th grade, science teacher in 8th grade, a math teacher in 7th grade, social studies teacher in 7th grade, and a family community liaison, a guidance counselor, board certified behavior analysis part-time, and then paraeducators, which they will train. And then the high school is looking for special education teachers, so more than one of those. Social studies teacher, math teacher, art teacher, media specialist, health science technology teacher, paraeducators. Once again, they will train. And then the district itself is looking for an information technology support technician, bus drivers, and they will train for CDL/CBC, SBC, which is the card you need to. So if you have a CDL, there's still a bus license portion kind of thing you'd have to do, but they'll help with any of those things. And they're looking for a transportation coordinator, and all schools need substitute teachers. So if any of these sound like something you're interested in, someone that's looking for something in this category here, reach out to the Newport School District. Sally Hooper, if you call the SAU, would be the one to talk to, and she can totally set you up with whatever information you need and get the process started.
Yeah, because you got to do a background check. You got to go.
There's a lot of stuff you got to go through, and obviously make sure you're safe to be around the kids in school, and that you have the credentials they need. And some of these things too, if you don't, if you've got a bachelor's degree and right, you just need a bachelor's.
If you have a bachelor's,
they'll work with you on some of these too.
Then you can be a science teacher.
Right.
You just got to get certified over a course.
Yeah,
of
and
2
you can.
3 years.
Yeah, you'll work under someone, and so they'll work with.
Right, they'll
people.
develop a plan for you.
Yeah, so if you
get your full certification after a couple.
Yeah, so even if you're not a teacher, but you have the education in any of these, reach out still, because if they don't have a science teacher that straight up comes forward and says, "Hey, I want to be the science teacher," they may say, "Hey, you know what, Mrs. Smith, you have a background in science. We'll train you if you want to do it or whatever." So if these things sound like something you're interested in, reach out.
Yeah.
So.
Recently retired or
looking
for a change of pace.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing that's kind of like more regional news is South. And I'm not a big basketball person, but it's related to our area. So the Celtics beat the Warriors last night, 120-108 in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and so they take the series 1-0. So if all goes well and they beat them, then we'll have another championship team out of Boston, which. If you're from New Hampshire, Boston teams are typically your team. I know you're not a Boston fan, but that's because you're a Texan now. But I think it's just a cool thing that it's a local thing. It sucks. We don't have a New Hampshire team. We don't have the New Hampshire whatever baseball team. So we have the Patriots, we have the Bruins, that kind of thing. But and your wife in New York.
She's got Buffalo.
She's got Buffalo. She's got the Jets, the Giants. They got all these teams. They got. I don't know, Yankees,
She's a crack
Mets.
I think they play in New York now, but their stadium used to be in New Jersey. It's like, why?
I think it still is.
Is it?
Well, at least football is. Football is in the Meadowlands, which is actually in Jersey, and they split the stadium. It's kind of interesting. Which, it doesn't make sense. But there's no New Jersey football team.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's...
But anyways, so that's mostly the Newport stuff and regional stuff. Yeah, like I said, if any of these things ring out to you, the other thing we could talk about real quick is Thursday, June 16th, from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Opera House. Chief Wilmot is doing a, what did he call it? Was it an actor shoot of training? Was that what it was? It was a.
Did you publish it yet?
It wasn't
It's
published yet.
basically takes us through the mentality of how to respond
If you're ever caught up in a
and
in
I
a
think
crisis,
he said,
really.
Yeah, he said a crisis. It's not really necessarily
plane crash, any of those
a
kind of things.
shooter.
And it's to talk about the stress and different things and how to deal with that. And so with all the things going on in the country, especially now that and it's free, you just show up to the Opera House, and there's some different videos he says that really pull your heartstrings and really hit and it's a Q&A. You can ask questions, and it would be good for anyone that's like teenager up. He said there's nothing that would be inappropriate for teenagers. Obviously, little kids not going to be interested in sitting there for 3 hours. He said he's barely there 3 hours trying to be paying attention and doing whatever. But so yeah, Thursday is 16th. Not so originally we thought I was like, oh crap, it's next Thursday, which is school board meeting, but it's after that, and they're kind of teaming up with the school. He said to do it, so we got to break that on our show yesterday. So
Breaking news
on the Tim and Steve show. Imagine that. So there's this new poll out, and it's interesting. So, all right, there we go.
Are we going to national now?
Now we're in the national stuff. This is where things get negative, right? Or
It's not
whatever.
negative. It's concerning if
Yeah.
this is true, because polls can be manipulated.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. And I want to
Anything with data can be manipulated. Like even
no, exactly.
scientific articles we read, if they're
And this, I'll read the headline and then
be manipulated.
we'll get into the information because it's the same thing. Like there's always a slant to every article, always. Like no matter what, if you read it, there's a slant.
Right, if you pay attention to the words they
Yes.
use, the adjectives.
Just like yesterday, I saw once again for the New Hampshire thing that veterans and town officials are trying, or town clerks are this whole voting law thing that you'd have to prove ID after 7 days, and how soldiers wouldn't be able to vote and all this crap. Which
See, I don't believe that.
No,
because
I don't either.
If you ever open up a crypto account, you have to take a picture of yourself with your
Yeah.
phone, and you have to scan your ID.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible to do it. So to say that it can't be done
No.
is a lie.
no,
Because they do it right now.
Yes.
Because you can't have a crypto account if you don't
Right.
take a picture of your ID
to prove, yeah,
and then let them scan your face so that they can track you
right, yeah.
when
So
you're using their digital money. So anyway, that's
that's
misinformation because
Right.
it can be done.
yeah, and that's the thing, and that's of course
Or the
that's,
technology's out there. Maybe the government doesn't quite
Right.
have the proprietary software, but they can
but it just kind of
they can
goes.
pay for a license to
It
use
just
the same thing.
goes with the story that we had earlier this week about the Senate, or the Senate, the House, whatever, in Massachusetts was going to override the veto of the governor down there giving illegals licenses. And the whole thing was, well, because you can't even verify who they really are. They could just go there and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and then, oh, cool, here's your license. And now, guess what? With a license, you can vote. Even though you're here illegally, you can vote. So, like, I couldn't go to a European country and vote over there because I don't live there and I'm not a citizen.
Because
so
they still somewhat have some sovereignty.
Exactly. So this is the same kind of thing. So if you don't have to prove your ID for God knows how long, you don't think voter fraud is going to happen? Like, how about this? If you don't show up with a driver's license, valid driver's license, you don't vote. End of story. Voting's a right, but you still have to prove who the hell you are.
Yeah, well, if we let anybody vote, then
Yeah.
it's not really our country anymore, right?
That's kind of
That's
the
the
direction
whole
I think we're
point
going
of-
here, isn't it?
Of having rules,
So anyways, the headline on this article,
having borders.
53% of Republicans polled, obviously, believe the U.S. has headed towards civil war. 44% of the young male Democrats approve assassinating a politician who is harming our country or our democracy. And
That's Democrats.
44%, yeah. So, but here, this is where I prove that I'm not just going to slant everything on the freaking show. So down here in the article itself, it said that, sorry, stuff's small.
Did they give a specific example and now they're generalizing it or something?
Nah, just, yeah, no. There are 44% of Americans who believe the U.S. seems headed towards. Well, that's not even Americans in general. So 44% of Americans believe the U.S. is headed towards a civil war in the near future, including 53% of Republicans and 39% of Democrats. And then there are 62% of gun-owning Republicans who believe that the government wants to confiscate their guns, but just 35% of the Democrat voters believe the firearms become hypothesis. More than 40% of gun-owning Republicans say that they own firearms in case I may need it to use it to protect myself against the government.
Which is why there's a Second Amendment.
Exactly. But I'm trying to find, and I apologize. I should have made this bigger so I could read this stupid thing.
You got a lot of colorful adjectives today.
Yeah.
Stupid, crap.
Well, hey, I can't swear. I have to change it up to other things. So anyways, yeah, 44% of Democrats believe that, assassinating a political person for the government or for the party is acceptable. But it was, 40%, I know it's in here. There we go. 34% of young male Republicans, these are male Republicans, that would approve of assassinating a politician who was harming our country or democracy. So it's interesting that, like I said, we lead with 44% of young Democrats, but 34% of Republicans think the same thing. So
I'm telling you, a lot of us are a lot closer aligned, and now I don't necessarily agree with that.
No.
That's never the answer. Right?
I mean, I don't mind tar and feathering, really. I think that's
well, that's different.
That's a little different.
That's old school. That's
but I don't think we should
them
be
to change their behavior.
Right. I mean, I don't agree with
Yeah, like we should be able to talk through our differences. Like
right.
It's so, and it's what I always say is we're a lot more alike than what we believe because the press, the media does this kind of thing to create a divide between us instead of having an open dialogue, which is, hey, let's talk, let's sit down and talk, and some things we might agree to disagree on, and it's okay. Just like you've mentioned that your massage therapist is like the opposite spectrum of you on most things, but y'all still get along.
Yeah, she'd call me like right now and say I have an emergency, I need help, and I would be there because that's just like she's a really good friend of mine.
Yeah,
like
she's a good person.
Exactly.
You just disagree on certain aspects of things.
We just have a different idea about different things, and that doesn't make her a bad person. And some things I totally disagree. I'm like, whoa, I'm not even close. But guess what? If you still call me and you needed something, no matter when it was, I'd be like, yep, I'll be there. I'll help you out because
you try to be a good person. That's called
That's
being a good person.
That's what you're supposed to do. So, yeah. And let's go back to the whole saying that, united we stand, divided we fall. And we really,
a lot of division.
And that really, this president says he's going to bring all this unity into the country, and that's a laughable thing. But, yeah, whatever. So anyways, this story, and I had to look this up to make sure it was real because I couldn't believe the headline when I first saw it. I'm like, there's no way that this is...
Because headlines
they're very misleading.
And then you read it down in there, and it's like the exact opposite.
Because a lot of people just read a headline and keep going, but when I do it on the show, like if I'm going to bring somebody on the show, I'm going to look it up further. I won't ever just pop out some headline and keep going like that because it's just not what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to get you the information. The point is we want to, like when Chief was saying we're like part of the mainstream media now, and I'm like offended by that. And then he's like, well, I'm kind of a politician. And then I was like, well, okay, so you're an evil politician.
There's an example. I have a pretty good auditory memory. I'm an auditory learner. But in this case, I was reading an article, and I remember the headline was, I don't know, whatever percent, it was a small percentage of unvaccinated being hospitalized. But then when you read the article, the percentage of vaccinated being hospitalized was like 2.5 times higher. But you know what I mean? But like the headline is like, whatever percent of unvaccinated are hospitalized. But then when you read the article in the last paragraph, it's like, oh, and by the way, vaccinated is, twice.
Right. You got to remember that.
But the headline is to catch it. So
yes.
Then you're like, oh, unvaccinated are bad people.
So you got to remember,
it's a choice they made.
So our show, for instance, we need viewers, right? So the more viewers we get, then we could potentially go out to sponsors and be like, hey, would you sponsor our show? We have viewers. So advertising is valuable because maybe one of our viewers gets their driveway paved. One of our viewers goes to Noise R Us and gets fireworks, right? But it's not to the scale. It's nothing like, for instance, CNN, Fox News, any of those. They need millions of subscribers, people to watch, so they can sell advertising, which is what pays for it. So they need catchy headlines to grab your attention so that you watch whatever their station is.
We're doing this for free.
Yeah, we don't get paid crap. Like, no, this costs us money, but it's something I want to do, and we're very thankful for it.
And it costs us personally, too, because some people can take a clip of one thing that you or I say, these guys are ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Well, I like to think that I'm not ridiculous. I might have positions that you disagree with.
Right,
but
exactly.
In my point of view, they're educated positions for the most part. Now, we all get emotional.
Right.
But I try to make sure that I do research before I sit here and say anything.
Right.
Because I know I could go and probably find that article that I just mentioned.
And I think sometimes the reason we get emotional about it is because of the show, we do more research than most people do because we need it for our show. So we're trying to bring our product forward, so we need to have all the information we can. And when we do that, and you do enough of it, I mean, this is show 23, which is crazy. But so we've been doing this more than a month, and we've had tons and tons of things we've talked about. But it's easy for us to connect dots because we've seen such a broader picture. When some people don't see the broader picture and they're like, well, no, there's no way this is actually happening. And it's like, well, if you saw the things we saw, you would easily say, this is definitely what's happening and this is why this is happening. But people have a harder time connecting those dots. And so sometimes
at some point it's no longer a coincidence and it's almost like it's coordinated.
Exactly. It's
on different things. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it's like it can't, you can't convince me that it's not a coordinated effort.
Right. Well, and
certain things.
This article is going to paint that picture pretty clear.
Right.
So
this is another dot here to show the evolution of society.
It is. So this is seattletimes.com. At the end of the show, I will put a link up for this so that you can actually see the story. And we'll start trying to do that with some more of these stories, too. Sometimes we just...
Yeah, we talked about that before the show.
Yeah.
Is that with my focus on the guard, like I didn't go to the game yesterday because I'm trying
Right.
to get everything planted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, so once we have more time...
Yeah, we're going to start doing... We'll do more diligence to
we're doing our diligence, but we'll be more diligent in putting it up there for you to be able to click on it in the description or at the end of the show. You'll be able to go and read the same things we are and correct us if we're wrong.
Right.
You can email us.
Yeah.
You can call into the show. You can call Tim's cell phone right now. Well, not, we're not live, but anybody's welcome to.
We'll give your cell phone number out. Email Tim and Steve Show NH at Gmail.
We have the ability to pipe somebody in on a phone call.
Yeah, if someone reaches out to us and say, hey, I want to be on your show and I can't come in, I want to call in, we can do that. We'll do that. No problem. And then you can message me, I'll give you my number and you can work that all out.
Exactly. I'm not going to give out your number on.
No, because then I'll give your number out. So, all right. So this is seattletimes.com. I saw this on Facebook yesterday as like a screenshot. With the headline, and then I was like, well, I need obviously more information. I'm not going to just come on the show with this. But so the headline reads, Seattle police stop investigating new adult sexual assaults this year, memo shows. So I'm like, obviously, first thing, wait, Seattle police are not going to investigate sexual assaults anymore. So where's your mind go first? Okay, first thing your mind goes is, oh, cops aren't going to do their job. But then you look into the article, obviously. So the Seattle police's sexual assault and child abuse unit staff has been so depleted that it stops assigning detectives to this year new cases with adult victims. So they're still doing children victims, but not adult victims. And according to an internal memo sent to interim police chief Adrian Diaz in April, the unit sergeant put her staff in crisis in stark terms. The community expects our agency to respond to reports of sexual violence, Sergeant Pamela J. John wrote. And at current staffing levels, the object is unobtainable. The law enforcement agencies here across the country have grappled with labor shortages during the pandemic and during the 2020 protests following the murder of George Floyd. But Seattle's failure to staff its sexual assault unit stands out from other local police departments and raising questions about the Seattle Police Department's priorities, advocates say. So
wait a second.
Yeah.
It's a labor shortage, or was it defund the police and demonizing the police?
So this is exactly where I'm going from it, because Seattle was a hot zone from, you had Ferguson, you had Kenosha, and you had Seattle, where they set up an autonomous zone in like this 8-block radius where basically cops weren't allowed to go in or whatever. So
within our own country.
Yes, and so here we go again. I have to, show the side that's doing this, because it's not one side, it's the other. The left people in this country, the leftist, the extremes, whatever you want to call it. Seattle is run by Democrats. They're run by leftists. They were the defund the police movement, even though they tried to flip that and say it was Republicans, but apparently Democrats think we're stupid and can't read. So, but this article,
or listen to their interviews,
or can't listen to your interviews. So this is why I wanted to mention this. First of all, the fact that they're not investigating, women being raped or men is being sexually assaulted or anything anymore because they're short-staffed. This is what happens when you let a bunch of morons run your city that know more than you do, and they're going to save everybody. But now you have a police department that cannot investigate something as heinous as rape or sexual assault. Now, they're still going to do it with children, but let's face it, they're short-staffed, so how often, what's going to happen there? This is the direction our country is going if you don't smarten up right now and say, you know what, come November, I'm all done. If you've never run as a politician before, I'm going to vote for you. I'm not going to vote for this person that's been here. I don't care if it's been one term, because they're not doing anything but trying to divide our country. You need to stop voting for the same people. And that goes from Democrats or Republicans, because you know what? I'm going to vote out Chris Sununu, because he's another do-nothing politician that is no good for our state. Luckily,
he's a liar.
He's a liar. But our state, luckily, isn't as bad as Seattle, which is in Washington State, where they're not going to investigate sexual assaults this year. So
they're going to have a hard time, right? So it's
but the problem is sexual assaults are time sensitive, right? So if a woman's been raped, you need a rape kit like almost immediately. So if they don't get to her for a week, guess what? You're not going to be able to prove it with DNA, which will make it almost impossible to prove it. So,
well, they should have the hospital should be able to do that. But yeah,
problem is,
I don't know the
hospital
exact
do a rape,
details of it.
No, because the hospital does the rape kit, yes, but the police department takes that evidence and locks it up with chain of custody. The hospital can't do the rape kit and then say, "Oh, hey, by the way, I got this rape kit." It won't hold up in court. It'll be thrown out because there's no chain of custody.
Is that your expert legal opinion?
Yeah, Chief next week is going to tell you the same thing.
But we should.
I watch a lot of ID channel.
So,
a lot of ID channel. So the point about this article, the bigger point, I guess, about this article, besides the horrible freaking
I like how they frame it as a labor shortage. Like, let's address why there's a labor shortage. It's because you demonize police force.
There's a labor shortage because who wants to be a police officer now when the mainstream media and one party in this country attack police constantly and blame them for everything that happens in this country? Oh, George Floyd, yep, police department, defund the police. No.
On one incident. That's like how the Army is. It's like, oh, this guy did this. None of you ever get to do this again. It's like,
we have a past president that takes the tragedy in Texas and talks about George Floyd in the same sentence. A criminal.
Well, he's got a
drug addict.
He's doing politics. It's called politics.
It's called dirty politics.
As uncouth as it is.
That's dirty politics.
It's not how you or I hopefully would approach it.
No, I would not approach it that way because I'm not a
there's an agenda
D-bag
which is
political
to disarm all of us, which, again, we wanted to arm Ukraine, and we sent millions of dollars over there to arm every citizen, and they're on the record saying we need to arm every citizen to fight against Russia, but we need to disarm all Americans.
Yes. I'll read this little quote, and then I'm going to go into my little...
that's hypocrisy at its finest.
Mm-hmm. So...
I don't know how you argue that and say, well, it's different. Well, how is it different? Because they're fighting an external government? That's the only difference.
Once again...
Their sovereignty is being threatened. Oh, by the way, our sovereignty is being threatened with an open border. And with people allowed to go get driver's licenses that aren't citizens, which then gives them the opportunity to vote in elections that they're not allowed to vote in because they're not citizens of this country. To be part of being a country is to have a common social goal. And so my whole point is if you don't like the Constitution as it's written, be like our forefathers and go and find yourself a land and start your own country, just like y'all told us, everybody to get off of social media if you don't want to be censored. Then that gentleman went, I think his name's Andrew Torba, went and started Gab, and now they're trying to shut Gab down. But he did what they said, which is go build your own. So he built his own, and now they're trying to shut it down. Go build your own country. Do what our forefathers did. Go find some empty land and declare it for yourself. Live the hard life and set it up how you want. Otherwise, follow the Constitution.
Right.
And that's not to say that there's not, we've obviously made amendments to the Constitution over time because there are some flaws, right, that we have as we progress as a society and technology improves and everything else and our values, right, as a society change. But don't try to change the entire Constitution. Do an amendment, do what we've done in the past and try to get it done through passing an amendment. But don't sit here and be like, well, this country's horrible. Whatever. Go build your own. Go and take the hard road and stop demonizing me because I don't want to give away half my crops because other people don't want to grow crops. No. Work hard.
I finally got you to go off on something.
It bothers me that this is our country. It's our Constitution's written, and everybody wants to sit here and say, and our Constitution is under attack daily by our own politicians without actually doing the right thing, which is to hold a convention and freaking have the states vote on a change of the Constitution. They're doing it through judicial activism. And if that's what you truly believe, then you don't have truly American values.
The problem is people don't understand, and it starts right in school. There's this.
I got an issue with it. I don't care what party you're in, Republican or Democrat.
Well, there's some new articles coming out, and maybe some we'll talk about next year. But basically, how the left is taking over schools for a long time now, and that's why they don't teach history like they used to, because we want dumb citizens so that they don't realize, wait, I have rights. You can't take these from me. But if you didn't know you had rights, it's really easy to take them from you. And so there's another article that we could get into next week about.
Well, people don't study history, Tom. You want to get me set off? So let's talk about history. 1918. You know why everybody stopped wearing the fake gauze masks that they had? It's because the politicians in Washington, there were pictures taken of them without a mask on when they're telling everybody else to wear a mask during the Spanish flu epidemic of 1917, 18. Back then, citizens were, you're a hypocrite. So if you're not doing it, I'm not doing it. If it's not good enough for you, it's not good enough for me.
Right. There's a two-party system in our country, but it's not Democrat, Republican. It's elites and the rest of us. There's different rules for those people. You see it clearing every day. And I do want to actually correct something. The other day I said that the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton.
There's articles you can read about that.
Yes. Yeah. But what I want to clarify is I said, it was a lawyer. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, it was a campaign manager. But actually, it was her campaign lawyer. So he's a lawyer and a campaign manager. So just to clarify that, who was acquitted of lying and the whole thing. And
the same thing they convicted Roger Stone of a couple of years ago.
Yes, the thing Trump got impeached over Russian collusion, but this dude made it up, but he didn't get in trouble. And no one will get in trouble because there's a two-class system where
in DC,
rules for us, not for them.
Even on the Roger Stone trial, the jury forewoman was anti-Roger Stone and still got to be the forewoman. What?
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care per se about Roger Stone and his politics. I care about fairness. So if the court system is supposed to be fair, then when they interview you,
blind justice,
you're supposed to say, hey, I got a personal issue. I think this guy's a clown, and I can't be unbiased about him because I have something against him. And on this trial, allegedly, there was a soccer coach of the guy on trial, his daughter's soccer coach was in the jury. The jury pool is not how it's supposed to be in D.C. They need to move trials out of D.C. if it involves politics.
Yep.
That's my own personal opinion. If you want it fair and just, and again, I'm not justifying Roger Stone, or I don't know enough about it, but I do know that I saw the jury was not. Well, have you ever been on jury duty?
No, I've always opted out.
They ask you all these questions to make sure that you can be fair and unbiased.
Exactly.
And if you can't be,
they don't want you there.
They don't want you there because it's not fair to the person on trial.
Exactly.
Because that's what's supposed to be one of the other good things about our country is you get a jury of your peers.
Right.
And it's supposed to be a fair trial and jury.
Blind justice. balance. Nope, not there. All right, so here, this is
That has nothing to do with politics either. That just has to do with common sense and decency and fairness, because you would not want
right.
the opposite for you.
No,
You would want a fair jury.
exactly. If you're sitting there looking at, yeah, absolutely. So I wrote this up, and just because it goes with everything that's happening right now in our country, which is pissing me off, and I think people need to
Is it
wake.
ticking you off, Tim?
You?
No, is it ticking you
Oh,
off?
well, it's ticking me off. You're not ticking me off. You're making me proud today. So, and I tell you what, next week,
These are all common sense things. If you just apply
I know.
common sense to it and think about it, no matter which party you're on, you wouldn't want, if you're a Democrat, you wouldn't want 5 Republican donors and everything else on the jury. If, like, you'd want a fair jury that's like, I don't know who this clown is. Never heard of him.
right. So
Or her.
next week, because today's Friday,
Or they.
next week I will, they and them, I will come up with one for Republicans just to show the balance so that, people will be like, oh, yeah, really? Because you're going off on your shit. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so Democrats. And I just, wrote this down, things I could think of. If I'd actually had your input, we probably could have a really big list here. But I'll say all this. You can put your input into, because you'll probably have more to add to it. And maybe even correct me on something, which I doubt, because these are things I can remember. So this is the Democrat Party, the leftist, or whatever the hell you want to say. The people running this country right now with full control of the Senate, the House, well, 50-50 control in the Senate, but Harris is the dividing vote, so they have control. Decision. So they want your guns, even though they left hundreds of millions of weapons to the Taliban, which the Taliban are the terrorists over there in Afghanistan that we left the country to. So the men and women that had died in that war, for what? For us to leave and actually give weapons to the Taliban, which is originally how the war started to start with Osama bin Laden. It was the Taliban, and then it turned into ISIS, and now we just armed. So we left the war giving weapons to the same damn people we started the war to fight.
Well, the fact checkers will tell you that they destroyed all the equipment. So let's say they destroyed the equipment. So now we destroyed millions of dollars worth of equipment that now we have to pay for to replace.
The point is we just left it.
Right.
In the process, we got 13 soldiers
either
killed.
left it or we destroyed it. Either
Exactly.
way, it cost us millions of dollars. So it's
Exactly.
more about the cost than.
But they didn't
'cause we can
destroy the
argue
guns.
about-
They didn't destroy the ammo. They didn't destroy the big, huge pile of cash they left. They made some helicopters and some aircraft that won't fly, supposedly, anymore. But as soon as we left, China came over and checked out our stuff that we left there, and which that's facts. You can check that out too. But anyway, so this is one. There's a list here. So they want you to drive electric cars, even though we can't charge them and we can't produce them. So California is a perfect example of this. You have rolling blackouts in California usually during the summer because of the usage of electricity goes up and their infrastructure can't handle it. So the goal of the Democrat Party is everybody drives an electric car because it's good for the environment. However, that's a bunch of BS because lithium right now, 60% of the lithium produced in the world goes to electric cars. Last year, the demand for cars, they sold 15 million cars. They only produced 1.3 million electric vehicles. So even if they took all the lithium, you would never even come close to the demand.
Who controls most of the lithium across the planet?
I don't know. Probably Bill Gates.
That's probably China.
Or
they're going into their Belt and Road program. Going into Afghanistan and
a lot of
and building them a soccer stadium. That's like their modus. That's the way how they work.
Afghanistan has a lot of
they'll go build a
uranium,
horribly built soccer stadium.
So there's a lot of lithium.
It'll crash down in a few years because it's not well built. But then that's how they pay for it. Is they'll go and build infrastructure, and then that gives them an end to the
right. So we can't charge them, we can't produce them, but we all need to drive them because, that's what we should do. They may also be able to compete against girls, even though they support equality. So all you ever hear is about equality. Yet trans men should be able to swim against women who have a biological advantage.
Or trans women. Is that how you word it?
I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. You're a man. You say now you're a woman. You're competing against actual biological girls, women, and so you're the party of equality, yet you fully support that and say that you can't be against that. They have rights too. That's interesting. So we're just going to point out all the little points here that go against everything that they lie about.
Well, did you see that the girls on the swim team with
They were told
Leah, whatever,
they will destroy their lives if
they speak out?
Mm-hmm. Penn State.
Crazy.
Good place to go right there. Penn State.
So they basically silenced them and took away their freedom of speech.
Yep. Because how dare you come out against what we stand for? You know what we stand for if you're a Democrat? You don't stand for this country. You stand for your own BS. You stand for your own power because...
Well, you could say about Republicans, too.
I could, but today's a Democrat day.
All right.
We'll do this.
We're going to do it with Republicans, too, and show their hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm. Republicans are spineless.
They'll write an angry letter.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll acquiesce.
Trust me, in November, once the Republicans take control, allegedly, we'll sit here and we'll talk about all the things they don't do now to stop what's going on because none of them do anything.
Right, because if you watch, because I watch all kinds of stuff and read all kinds of stuff, but the liberals will sit there and complain about we have full control and yet we're not doing universal health care, we're not doing all this stuff because they don't really want to.
No.
They want to divide us.
They've never built anything, ever. They want to force you to take a vaccine, yet it's your body, your choice when it comes to abortion. So if you want an abortion, they're 100% for it. If you're like, no, I don't want that untested vaccine, sorry, you're going to do it anyways. The experiment one.
Experimental.
Right, the one that thousands of people have died, but they've covered it up because, well, we can't show that.
Well, people can't connect the dots. I can't help people anymore. Like, you can just read the research; it's out there.
Right. Record high gas prices and inflation, yet we keep spending money and sending it to other countries. So you can try to say all you want, like the president doesn't control gas prices. No, but his policies do. And when day one you kill the Keystone Pipeline, which would have helped, might not have fixed it.
Canada's suing us now.
Oh yeah, because of the Keystone Pipeline. Oh yeah, the whole thing. So if you follow the dots, you follow all this, you just like, So you know things why they get worse? Because you let Democrats control it. So Democrats control Seattle.
Well, Democrats don't compromise, right? So Republicans will compromise, and they'll try to, allegedly they try to play fair. They write their letters and say, hey, this isn't really, just like how Sununu is a liar, right? So he said he compromised.
Right.
But he didn't compromise. He got what he wanted, and then he's like, I changed my mind.
Yeah. No.
Which usually is what Democrats do, but in this case it was a Republican that lied.
But if you look at, we don't know why these things are happening, so
usually. It happens with both parties.
But we don't know why police don't want to, join.
Why citizens don't want to be police officers.
We don't understand why.
Why we have a labor shortage. Like, that's sugarcoating the labor shortage is because you demonize cops.
Right, because
don't get me wrong, there are bad cops. There's bad people.
It's bad everything. Right. Do you know what there's not much of, though? Good politicians. So anyways, if they don't get their way, they'll pack the Supreme Court. Reality is they hate America and they're trying to destroy it. They don't like how our country is. They want to make it their own.
Judicial activism to change the Constitution instead of just going and creating their own country with their own Constitution.
Because the law doesn't allow them to do the things they want to do. And if you want to look at everything like Chicago, Seattle, all these places that are run by Democrats, they're crap hole cities with lots of poor minorities and high-end crime, gun violence. And this is my next point right here.
The strictest gun laws.
Yes, every large city they rule over has record gun violence and poor minorities with the toughest gun laws in the country. Yet more laws are going to fix this, right? So we create more laws, we're going to fix all these issues. No, you're not.
It's interesting because and again, polls can be manipulated, so take it at face value. But I think I saw it yesterday. Most Americans believe that it's a mental health crisis, not a gun crisis.
Right.
So if most of us are common sense and like, well, this guy or gal had usually men, had some mental issues, So the problem is with them. And, oh, by the way, and most of them are known to police or the FBI or both, and still they have the ability to get their hands on weapons. And, I'm not a big red flag law kind of guy, but we already have laws on the books that say if you commit these types of offenses, you're not allowed to buy a weapon.
Right. So
if they enforce those in some cases.
No, this is what happens. They don't enforce the laws we have now, which you can see it every day. Illegals can't get licenses.
And they're making it easier, by the way, because New Hampshire is passing something, California passed something to where if you do something as a juvenile, it makes it hard. Like, you can't really prosecute juveniles anymore. So
right. You can pretty much do whatever you want as a juvenile, and you won't be prosecuted.
So there's no consequences for your actions until you turn 18, and then we pay the consequences for your actions.
Yeah, but then, you're 18 and you just shot up a school, or you shot up a supermarket and kill all these people, and oh my God, we need to do something. We need to take guns away. How about you stop making no consequences for them because you're creating the issue? You are the issue.
Right.
People wake up.
That's too common sense.
Yeah. They are the party of the KKK and Jim Crow, which, look it up. The DNC, the KKK, the same thing. If they really believed any of the crap they spew all over the news, they would change their party to something else because they are the party of slavery. They voted 100% against abolishing slavery. They were against women's rights. They are the party of slavery, even though they try to say, if you're Republican,
they've rewritten
you're
history.
a racist.
That's why they rewrite history. That's why they
I'm trying to get this guy.
Don't acknowledge the 1918 Spanish flu. There was one other example I had.
There's this guy. His name's Vince Ellison. I'm trying to get him on the show. Problem is, because I heard him on another show, more local, but way, way, way bigger than us. But he's been on Fox News now, so the chance of getting him is probably not very good. But he wrote a book about the 25 lies basically the Democrats tell black people because they basically built their whole party off the backs of black people in slavery, and they still use it today. They try to say that, the other party is the one that's the racist one, when the reality is all the laws the Democrats have made have hurt black people. It's just a bunch of crap. And this guy is perfect because, first of all, he's a black man. He can speak from that perspective, which obviously me and you cannot. And he's a smart. I listened to him once on the radio, and I'm like, wow, this guy gets it. He's very. So I'm going to attempt to see if I can make that happen. Maybe as
he's going to watch our show and be like, yeah, I'm not coming on that.
I don't know. I might watch today's and be like, I might join that one. But anyways, and then here's a quote from Joe Biden. So, I am convinced that a criminal who wants a firearm can get one through illegal, untraceable, unregistered sources with or without gun control. And this is when he was senator, and this is 1985. But once again, he never remembers or means what he says. He just spews crap out of his mouth. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Wasn't he valedictorian or in the top 10 of his class that he also lied? I mean,
I don't know.
He's a liar.
He's lied about.
They've caught him lying all the time.
He ran for president 3 times. 2 times he dropped out because he plagiarized things or lied about stuff. And then this time he spent his whole time in the basement. He got 81 million votes.
He did say that they put together the most prolific
voter fraud.
Yep. Yeah. So people will say, "Oh, he misspoke."
Yeah. People.
Yeah, he misspoke because he said it out loud.
People that don't have their mental faculties,
allegedly,
which it'd be hard for anyone to sit there and say that, oh yeah, he's totally got his mental faculties together. You know what happens?
I know some people that would probably do that.
So think about it. When you drink, the truth comes out, right? It's the same kind of concept. If you don't have your mental faculties, you're just going to say what comes to your mind. This dude's going to say that. Guess what? He weren't lying. He didn't misquote that. He didn't no. He said what he said, and
it's like Bill Gates saying in a TED talk or whatever that we can control the population through vaccines.
No, that didn't happen. All right, last 2 ones. The DNC, which is the Democrat National Convention, is constantly trying to fuel race wars. The new lynching law. When's the last time you've heard of someone being lynched? I know you mentioned at one point, before the show, 20 years ago, they dragged a black man behind a truck, with
Jasper, Texas.
Lynch, and I do remember that. And
I mean, it's not old, it's.
And they tried him with a hate crime, and I'm sure he got life in prison and all that. It's just another law that'd be like, oh look, we care so much, but it does nothing. 99% of the laws they pass, they do nothing. It just sound good in headlines, right? Like, oh, they care so much for us.
Tim, I don't know how many times I can tell you this, but most politicians' job is to create division in the country, no matter which party they are for.
True.
It's to divide us, because divided we fall.
I do stand divided, we fall. And the last thing is DNC wants to end the Constitution, which you can get clip after clip after clip of Democrats in different places saying how we need to get rid of the Constitution. We need to pack courts because that's, we can't get our way, so we're going to pack the court.
Right.
It is amazing because most of the, you look at the parties in charge now and stuff, and you have so many people that have been there for years and years and years and years that are well aged, yet they act like kids nowadays. Like, if I don't get my way, then I'm gonna have to cheat. It's like the whole game of that side of the country. It's like, oh well, if I don't get my way, then I'll just cheat my way through. If I am losing an argument to you, then you're an ist, you're a racist, fascist, sexist, you're something, because I don't have the brain power to debate you on something, so you must be an ist, which is very funny. I find that fascinating, and how people don't see the hypocrisy is beyond me. I just don't get it, because you don't have to look far to see it. It's everywhere. Like, I wrote this in 5 minutes.
The disadvantaged communities don't have a way to get an ID. Well, how'd they buy cigarettes and beer?
So let's think about that. So that statement, if a Republican said this statement, they would be made out to be racist and everything else, because apparently black people aren't smart enough to get IDs.
It's not smart enough. It's also they don't have the capability.
They're not as privileged.
Yeah.
They're not capable. Yeah, they are. They're very capable. They can do whatever any other person can do.
Whatever any of us put our minds to, we can accomplish. Doesn't matter what.
Exactly. And the biggest fear the government has,
it's just silly.
But the biggest fear the government has is the day we all come together. And this is what we need to do. We need to come together.
Right.
We need to remind these politicians that this country is our country. It is we the people. And we control the country. We control all of it. And it's based on a Constitution, which was made to protect us. And that's why the Second Amendment's there, to protect you against this exact government we have today. It's not about hunting. It's not about, whatever. It is 100% about a tyrannical government, the exact government you see today, every day.
It's getting scary how much they want to control our lives.
Yeah.
Which is one of the first things I learned in American politics is there's a faction that believe that you and I aren't smart enough to make our own decisions. And there's another faction that believes, leave you alone and you are smart enough to make your own decisions.
And it's time we show that side that, no, we're smart enough and we're going to. And it's time to take back our country. And it's time to say and send a message.
It takes people calling.
Yes.
Even calling Shaheen.
All of them.
All of them. Call them up and say, this is what I want. And whenever they're like, how did this happen? Like, well, you had millions of us calling you, telling you to stop sending money overseas, to invest internally.
Because if they get to the point where they're like, kind of scared to show my face.
And balance the budget so that we're not just printing money and causing inflation. I mean, you don't have to be an economist to realize that if you keep printing money, it devalues the dollar.
Right. Well, the Biden administration is now admitting that they're wrong on inflation, which no one could have saw that one coming.
Yeah.
No.
Surprise.
All right, meme of the day. How can gun control works? A wolf attacks a sheep and kills it. The other sheep see that the sheep was killed by teeth. Teeth are dangerous. All the sheep agree to remove their teeth and turn them in. The wolf still has teeth. This is like a perfect example of a lot of things, really, but especially gun control. So the teeth are the problem. So if I take my teeth out, then I'll be safe. So if I give my gun up, I'll be safe. No, because a criminal will still have a gun. What do you not understand about this problem here? The problem is you're looking at what's happened, and you're looking at it just emotionally, and you're not thinking intelligently about it, saying, and I can get behind some gun control things. I can get behind some things. I mean, raising the age from 18 to 21 to buy a assault-type weapon, which is, an AR, that's a joke.
I don't agree with that. Yeah.
No.
Like, if I can serve in the military...
You can die for your country at 18.
I should be able to go buy tobacco, alcohol, whatever.
I mean, I'm sure you had plenty of 18-year-old soldiers in the Army when you're in there, and, I mean, where you're like, oh, I don't know, I should shouldn't give them a gun. No, it's not the problem.
The age was not the problem. It was the maturity factor, because it's
Right.
different for everybody else. So, and that's why we do background checks now. There's already background checks in place. However, there's other laws that prevent you from knowing that somebody did something for 5 years. They were in trouble straight because it gets wiped or hidden on their record. And so then you can't make.
And keep in mind that just happened in New Hampshire. Yeah. So because we'll bring this local and we'll end the show. So when I first got involved with the school, I went into the meetings after you got elected, and I went into the meetings and pretty pissed off about some stuff happening. And then I sat down and I talked with more people. I sat down with the super twice. I sat down with Miss Martin, who was the principal at the high school. I sat down with lots of different people and talked to different people and got more informed. And I changed my approach. So instead of going to a meeting and flipping out about something, I asked questions and I looked into what was happening. So when I sat down with the police chief, I said, okay, we have a drug problem in Newport. Drug problem everywhere, but I care right now, obviously, about Newport. My kids go to Newport. I care deeply about Newport. Why don't you do this? Why don't you go down there with 20 cops, a bunch of dogs, and run through that school? Because that's what used to happen when I was in school. They didn't, not 20 cops, but they'd run the police dog through searching for drugs, whatever. It happened a couple times a year. None of us cared. I mean, I didn't care. I didn't have drugs anyway, so whatever. But why don't you do that? Well, the school has to invite us in. But so what happened is they didn't want kids because of juvenile instances, getting records that would follow them the rest of their life. Because supposedly, statistically, if you had a record, it built off of that. So if you...
Right, it's a pipeline to prison.
Exactly.
Which we don't want that either.
No, we do not.
Be a balance, though.
No.
You got to have some...
But so what they did to fix it, right, they overcorrected. So they basically took the police department out of the school picture altogether and put all the power into the school. So now the school has all the power. Yet, at the same time, they made another law that tied the school's hands so the school couldn't do the stuff that the school needs to do. And even today, they'll break rules that aren't technically they're supposed to do because it's like, this is not right. This is not how this should be working right now. And now they just passed another law that makes it even harder to prosecute or do anything with juveniles. So here we are in this country. We're worried about gun violence in kids in schools and all that.
Mental health. Yet we just passed more laws that make it so those kids aren't going to get help, and they're not even going to have a record to follow them. So who knows what happened. So between 13 and 18, there were terrors in school, threatened, all these things. They turn 18, they go get a gun. You know why? Because we just made laws so that doesn't follow you anymore. It's not that it doesn't follow you, but there's no consequences for your actions.
But it doesn't follow you, Steve, because as soon as you're 18, it's a juvenile record, it's locked up in court, and you never see it.
Right, but it's...
So when you do your background check, it's like, no, let's get it on the record.
There's no consequences for the action.
No.
It's not just that. It's...
And our own government is making it so there's no consequences for the action. Yet they stand there and say, oh, my God, all this stuff's happening. We don't know why it's happening. Yeah, we do know why it's happening because you are making laws that are taking the ability away from people to make consequences for people. They are literally creating the issue and then saying, well, we don't know why this is happening. Wake the hell up. Accountability. You hold your politicians accountable. You hold everyone accountable. I'm accountable for me. If I do something wrong, I'll be held accountable. But because you're 15 years old and you did something, you're not going to be held accountable anymore?
Well, Tim, I've said it many times, and I'll keep saying it. It starts with parents, guardians, and teaching morals and values, because most of us have developed our morals and values by the time we're 12 years old. So, yeah, some things can change, but you pretty much how you're going to be for a while, unless you end up going into like the military where there's constant reminders and classes and training, and there was when I was in enforcement of the moral and value code that branch of service has. Not many people are going to change. So it starts when you're a young child having consequences and understanding that you can't just do what you want to do.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean, within bounds. Like, yeah, you have freedoms to go out and be successful and do what you want, but you can't just go out and harm others or destroy property and expect that everybody's going to like you. Like you're a
So,
pariah at that point, and nobody wants to be around you if you're a criminal or a thief. And kids don't, if they're not held to account starting at a young age, all the way up through, then by the time they're adults, they don't have a moral or value code that lines up with our societies, right? So society is trying to change it. So now we're saying, act however you want. We're going to take everybody's weapons away so that there won't going to be too many consequences. And if there are, it'll be enforced by the government because the government's here to save you. The government should not be here as your provider. It should be protecting the border and the sovereignty of our nation so that we as a collective can live by the morals and values that we have established, which is evident in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and through our history if people study history. Yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, there are some bad warts on our society. And it wasn't just when we first formed. As recently as 50 years ago, they were using LSD on citizens. I mean, this is all in our own government was drugging people to see what would happen using them as experiments.
exactly. So,
But yeah, I'm going to trust the government to take care of me.
so this
Wake
is,
up, take care of yourself and your family and your friends and your community and your state.
this is the part that makes me different than most people. So, you know, so if I don't know, Steve Harvey, I'm a big fan of his. I read a bunch of his books actually. He, spent a couple of years homeless, living in his car. Like he came from nothing. Black man too, came from nothing to extremely, extremely successful. And like I said, I've read some of his books, and they're really inspiring. First of all, and I don't even remember he has one like I can't even remember the last one I read, but so the point with me so the point I was trying to get to was you have to find what you're good at because everybody's good at something, right? So no matter, some people probably now, especially young kids, like, well, how can I contribute? I'm not good at anything, and it's hard to find what you're good at. It's very, very hard to find. Like I fell into a sewer position, like into the sewer business, and I was extremely good at it, and it just happened, right? Boom, it came in, and I'm like, well, man, what am I good at? Like, I'm good at talking to people, and so my job I was good at hey, we need to fix this because this is broken. So it was took a long time, but my talent is fixing things. And honestly, it's always been, and it's not like fixing stuff in my yard because you look in my yard and there's nothing fixed and it's not that. So if you're like, yeah, Tim, you're good at fixing stuff. All right. You see all those little cars you have in your yard sitting there. But the point I'm trying to say is that everyone has a talent and you need to find that talent and you need to go off of that talent. So if you're good at fixing things, you need to find, hey, how can I apply this? If you're good at writing, maybe you become a writer. Maybe you're writing newspaper art, whatever. So we've always done this when we talk on the show, that not only do we talk about stuff, we're in the community and we do stuff. So we take action. We don't just sit here like most people do. You watch the nightly news and everything. It's the same old, and these people don't offer any solutions. So I want to take all this a step further, and I want to offer, okay, so how are we going to fix it? So I'm going to start an organization, like a nonprofit, that focuses on what exactly we just talked about, providing a better way for young families that are not getting their lessons at home. Because a lot of the stuff we learned as kids, school didn't teach us this. We just learned that. So obviously there's something broken there. So I want to start an organization. Obviously, I'll focus in Newport, and we can see where it goes from there. But that's exactly what we do, and we'll use this organization to do it. I'm also inviting you in. I don't want to put you on hey, you have to help me with this. But, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on young families in this community and how we can try to get them help and how we can get these kids in a better position so when they do go to school or while they're in school, they can have an easier time and really it's going to make it easier for the teachers. It's a full circle thing. So, once again, for the haters out there that well, blah, blah, blah. Well, once again, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do something and I'll make this work because anything I've ever done, I've came from nothing to, 17 years in business, and it was a very successful business. And it was just time for something different. I don't fail at the things I do because I refuse to fail. I won't fail. You get setbacks, things happen. Trust me, I have a lot of setbacks in my life, but we never give up and we just keep pushing forward because that's just what I do as a person. That's what my family even does, is my immediate family, you know. So I'm going to start this organization. I don't know of a name yet. I don't know anything. And we're going to implement it in Newport. We're going to start it in Newport. And we're going to see where it goes and see what we can do with it. And, yeah, that'll be our way to give back. And obviously I'm inviting you in on this deal. And
I'll have to see your business plan.
you have to see the business plan. But
I mean, it's a nonprofit, but you know what I'm saying.
But for those people that are like, well, talk, I don't just talk. I put my money where my mouth is, and I do it daily with many things.
Yeah, we both went to Concord and
Exactly.
stood up for what we believed in. And
So we don't only just talk the talk, we walk the walk, and we will continue to walk the walk, and we will continue to do shows like this, good, positive ones with negative things, whatever, just trying to make people aware. I don't want you to get from the show like, oh, Democrats are bad. No, I just want you to pay the hell attention to what's happening around you and say, we need to make change. We need new people to run our government because the people running it now are all the same. The letter's different next to the name, but they're all the same.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of independents out there like us that, you know, there's certain things that I agree with that would be considered a Democrat position and
Right.
a Republican position.
Enough of the party crap. I'm an American.
Position. Yeah, just let's stick to good morals and values.
Yeah, I'm an American. If that offends you, oh, freaking well, move to Canada.
Yeah, go start your own country.
Good luck. All right, so very important. Have a great weekend. Saturday, 4 o'clock. Get out. Support the Newport softball team. They're taking on Scenic. Quarterfinals. They win this. They keep going. If they lose, it's a one and you're done kind of thing. So get out, support your community, do something positive in the community this week. I don't know, if you're driving down the road, see some trash, stop, pick it up, or just contribute because it really will make the world around you a lot better place. So on that note, thank you so much for watching the Tim and Steve show, and we look forward to talking to you on Monday.